Hello, everyone. Very good morning. Good morning, Priyanshu. So I see students are still joining the session. We may wait for like 5 minutes. We'll be starting with this particular chapter, which is visible on the screen exactly after 5 minutes. Right, guys? Very good morning, Milan. Yes, I know, Priyanshu, but the thing is, those things are best relatable if we do those concepts with lab. That's why I would like to complete this chapter, which is all about identifying social engineering and malware, because this is the important part of security as well. Quiz one is approaching on Friday, so we need to cover up this syllabus. So that thing can be covered in lab, because all of such things are practical. So that would be great if we can do such practical kind of things in lab, right? All right, guys. So I believe my screen is visible to each one of you out there. Okay, Pranshu. All right, Ganesh. So today we are going to discuss about social engineering. So this chapter 4 is particularly about identifying social engineering and malware. So the basic, the agenda of this is to compare and contrast social engineering techniques. How many of you have heard of social engineering term before? सोशल इंजीनियरिंग के बारे में सुना है कभी आपने बच्चे? Any idea about it? Say something. Yes, no, maybe. In politics. See, when we talk about attack surface, like attack surface could be anything. That could be people, employees, contractors, suppliers, customers. So they represent a part of the attack surface of any organization, right? So a person with permissions on the system, that is basically a potential target of social engineering. A person who is having access to the system, who is the authorized person. So it basically this particular tactic, social engineering technique and tactic involves like manipulation of human beings' mind. Okay. So when someone gets successful in manipulating you and fetch out the necessary relevant information out from you, that means he or she has applied social engineering tactics and techniques. So being able to compare, contrast social engineering techniques, you like this thing will help you to lead security awareness training and to develop policies, other security controls to mitigate their risk. The thing is, employees who are the crucial resource to any organization, important part of the organization, they have access to the organization's data to some extent. Like there could be various employees who are at the higher positions, so they must be having the inside view of the organization's policies, everything, how it's going on and so on. And anyone, if any other person, the attacker or the hacker, if he or she is able to manipulate that person and fetch out the relevant information out from that particular employee, then that is basically the task which is being performed in social engineering. So it is basically we can refer social engineering to the simple terms like hacking the human. ये एक human को hack करने वाली technique है, like how the other person is successfully manipulating you, fetching out the information and so on. So उसे कोई ऐसी क्या कहते हैं हार्डकोर साइंस नहीं लगानी पड़ रही है, जस्ट द मैनिपुलेशन व्हिच इज बीइंग डन, राइट? So I believe now that from the term is clear to you all, social engineering. Now see, adversaries can use a diverse range of techniques to compromise a security system. So the prerequisite of many types of attacks is that क्या एक बेसिक सी चीज रहती है, blackmailing. Blackmailing him to do internal threat. I am unable to get the blackmailing him to do internal threat. Blackmailing is something different. I'm talking about manipulation. How someone is able to manipulate you, successfully manipulate you, and fetch out the information from you. विश्वास जो कहता है ट्रस्ट गेन करके बातों में उलझा के कुछ ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन किसी पर्सन से ले लेना एंड सो ऑन. So the basic thing when we talk about the attacks, काफी सारे attacks कैसे होते हैं when they are able to obtain the information about the network and security system. When they have the view of the network security system, then only the attack can be performed. So majority of the attacks are being performed in such a manner. So this is the prerequisite of many types of attack. But when we talk about social engineering, sorry, it refers to the means. Just a second, guys. Yes, Karthik, when we fall into the traps of attacker, that is basically social engineering. Now, see, so we were discussing about social engineering. So this is basically, we can refer this particular term to means of either, collecting the information from someone or getting them to perform some action for the threat actor. For the threat actor, who are threat actors? Those who are attacker or the hackers, right? They have some bad intentions, so they are actually manipulating the other person to fetch out the information from them, or they are manipulating them enough so that they can get their task done for for the threat actor. कोई ऐसा किसी दूसरे पर्सन से काम करवाना जो एक अटैकर के लिए बेनिफिशियल है in that manner. So this is basically hacking the human. And when we say hacking the human, that means the human who is hacked, मतलब वो सारे उसकी कमांड्स फॉलो करेगा, जिसने सोशल इंजीनियरिंग अपनी टेक्निक लगा दी है. So social engineering might be used to gather intelligence as reconnaissance in preparation for any intrusion. And when we talk about reconnaissance, that means collecting all the relevant information, right? So the first part of this particular slide is hacking the human. Then purpose, what's the purpose of social engineering? One is reconnaissance and eliciting the information. And then intrusion and gaining unauthorized access. So typically, social engineering inclusion scenarios could be like when it is like here it is said that it is being used for the to gather the intelligence and reconnaissance so that they can prepare for any such particular intrusion, or that particular piece of information might be used to effect an actual intrusion. So typical scenarios could be like reconnaissance. Priyanshu, are you asking it today? We are discussing it since 2 days. Collecting information which helps in order to perform the attack, all the relevant information about the particular network or the system or the organization. Is it clear now? Pranshu? Now see, social engineering, इसमें social engineering inclusion scenarios किस तरह के हो सकते हैं? How they can perform this, they can lead to a successful inclusion. See, just say अगर एक attacker ने एक fire alarm trigger कर दिया है ना? If an attacker triggers a fire alarm and then slips into the building during the confusion and attaches a monitoring device to a network port, here the social engineering has happened, right? Where a particular the attacker gets successfully let its inclusion uh, affect an actual inclusion in the scenario. Or there could be a scenario like an attacker contacts the help desk, like pretending to be a remote sales representative who need some kind of assistance setting up the remote access or something like that, like being someone else. So through a series of phone calls, the attacker obtained the name, the address of the remote access servers, login credentials probably, and in addition to the phone numbers for the remote access and for accessing the organization's private phone and voicemail system. So this is how such kind of intrusions are actually happening. with this social engineering. Now, the scenarios which are given over here, like contact a help desk and solicit the information, gain access to the premises, install a monitoring device, and the very first point, which is persuade a user to run a malicious file. Now, what could be there? See, an attacker may create an executable file that prompts a network user for their password, राइट। कोई ऐसी एग्जीक्यूटेबल फाइल उसने हैकर ने अटैकर ने शेयर कर दी है जो कि आपके नेटवर्क यूजर का पासवर्ड आपसे उसमें मांगेगी टू पुट दैट पासवर्ड ओवर देयर एंड देन द रिकॉर्ड्स व्हाटएवर द यूजर इनपुट्स। तो जो भी उसका इनपुट होगा यूजर का that will be recorded in that. So the attacker then emails the executable file to the user with the story that user must double click the file, log into the network again to clear up some login problems the organization has been experiencing that morning, blah, blah, blah. Any scenario, any such fake mail could be received. So after the user complies, the attacker now has access to their network credentials. So this is how, like the very first point in the scenarios which is given, the persuade a user to run a malicious file by giving a real-time scenario to that particular person so that the person gets, manipulated, वो इतना उस चीज को believe कर ले and gives his or her input about the same, whatever has been asked for that. So these are the scenarios, the possible scenarios of social engineering. Then we have social engineering principles. Before moving forward with the principles, are you now clear about the basic concept of social engineering? What is exactly being done in social engineering or the hacking the human? What does it mean? What about others? Others, please reply. I'm not feeling well since many days, and I'm speaking continuously in these regular sessions. I'm having this throat infection. My husband has been detected COVID positive. So probably I'm also suffering from the same disease. And when I see like people don't reply back, I feel like don't teaching you guys. After continuously speaking for 5 to 10 minutes, my throat starts like paining. So can you please reply at least? What do you have to do? Either you have to say all clear, or if you have any doubt, then you just ask me, right? Now talking about social engineering principles, uh, see, social engineering is considered as one of the most common successful malicious techniques because these days we are aware enough, but if we come up to like our parents, and if they receive such kind of fraudulent emails or calls, there is some up to some extent they that all depends upon the scenario or the person to person that may varies, not just the parents, maybe grandparents. So they start believing that particular person if the other person is speaking in a polite tone or feeling like yes I can trust him or her or something like that. This is the most common successful malicious technique which is happening because it basically exploits basic human trust. So social engineering has proven to be particularly effective, way of manipulating people into performing actions that they might not otherwise perform. So they are letting the people perform such kind of actions which they want. So to be persuasive, social engineering attacks rely on one or more of the principles which are listed over here. Now, the reason of effective for the effectiveness is clear because they basically deal with the human trust and they exploit it. This is the, you know, most common thing which is happening in the social engineering. Now, see, the principles are familiarity and liking. Now, the very first part or the very common part of social engineering technique or the tactic is establishing trust. So, some people have the sort of natural charisma that allows them to persuade others to do as they request. इतने कन्विंसिंग होते हैं, कईयों की टोन इतनी कन्विंसिंग होती है कि वो जो कहते हैं सामने वाला थोड़ा कन्विंस हो जाता है करने के लिए उस चीज को, राइट? सो वन ऑफ द बेसिक टूल्स ऑफ सोशल इंजीनियर is simply to be affable, likable, and to present the requests that make as completely reasonable and unobjectionable. इस तरह से वो रिक्वेस्ट सामने वाले पर्सन के आगे रखते हैं कि वो उसको डिनाई कर ही नहीं सके, ठीक है? सो दे एक्चुअली यू नो please that particular person. So this approach is relatively low risk, as even if the request is refused, it is less likely to cause some suspicion, and the social engineer may be able to move on to the different target without being detected. अब रिक्वेस्ट नहीं भी मानेगी कोई बात नहीं, वो अगले पर्सन पे चले जाएंगे. So this is something liking, or we can say how they talk. So that is basically they have to be affable, likable, and they have to present the request to make, as completely reasonable. इतनी request a reasonable or unobjectionable request लगे. Then we have consensus or the social proof. So, the principle of consensus or the social proof refers to the fact that without an explicit instruction to behave in a certain way, many people will act just as they think others would act. So, basically, a social engineering act can use this instinct either to persuade the target that to refuse a request would be odd. So, that's not something anyone else has ever said no to, or something like that, or to exploit some polite behavior to slip into the building while someone holds the door for them. So, as an other example, we can say that the attacker may be able to fool a user into believing that a malicious website is actually the legitimate by posting some numerous fake reviews, testimonials, praising the site. तो उससे ऐसा लगेगा कि हाँ मतलब इनका जो है legitimate, real सी लगेगी. So the victim, believing many different people have judged the site acceptable, they take this as an evidence of the site's legitimacy and places their trust in it. So this is how they are actually breaching the people's trust with this social engineering task. So this is about the second part, which is one of the principle of social engineering. Then we have authority and intimidation. So many people find it difficult to refuse a request by someone they perceive as superior in rank or expertise. कोई भी senior person हमसे कोई बात करे, we find it hard to say no, right? So social engineers can try to exploit this behavior to intimidate their target by pretending to be a senior executive. तो वो एक सीनियर बन के बात कर सकते हैं दूसरे पर्सन को, इतना मतलब अब उसके लिए तो बहुत मुश्किल है नो करना. So an attack may be launched by impersonating someone who would often be deferred to, such as police officer, judge, doctor, like some kind of senior executive. So another technique is using spurious technical arguments, jargon, इतने technical jargons use करना, arguments ऐसे use करना. So social engineering can exploit the fact that few people are willing to admit ignorance. So compared to using the familiarity, liking sort of approach, so this sort of adversarial tactic might be riskier to the attacker, as there is greater chance of arousing some kind of suspicious thing is happening, or the target reporting the attack attempt. So then we have scarcity and urgency. Uh, Now, often also deployed by salespeople, like salespeople जैसे phone करते हैं, creating a false sense of scarcity urgency can disturb people's ordinary decision making process. अगर कोई बहुत ही immediate आपसे इतनी urgency में कोई ऐसी ऐसी conversation हो कि आपका ये खत्म होने वाला है, आपका ये blah 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 जो भी है, तो you will ultimately believe that person, तो आपकी decision making process थोड़ा disturb हो जाएगा. So the social engineer can try to pressure his or her target by demanding a quick response. मतलब इसी कॉल पे रिस्पॉन्स चाहिए अभी के अभी, लाइक दिस कि इतना प्रेशराइज कर देना. So they might try to target to sign up for a limited time or the invitation only trial and request a username password for the service. Now, fake antivirus products generate a sense of urgency by trying to trick users into thinking that their computer is already infected with malware. So this is how scarcity and urgency, this like this is considered as the principle of social engineering. So this basically rush a target into a decision, and it disturbs the or people's ordinary decision making process. So talking about the principles, the current slide, is it clear to you all, or do you have any doubt, guys? You have won the lottery, and this much. This is the check. The amount will be released as soon as you will fill the details and so on. कुछ भी ऐसा होता है. इसे basically phishing कह देते हैं. Yes, guys, is it clear? All right. Then we have impersonation and trust. What exactly is there? The term impersonation simply means pretending to be someone else. है ना, कोई और बन के बात करना. If you're getting offers of part-time job, like in the form of ads, you're talking about, Milan. The ads which Insta displays. उसमें आ रही हैं part-time job offers. On in DMs. Okay. बहुत से ऐसे कुछ भी DMs आते हैं कई बार. So impersonation का मतलब क्या है? When someone pretend to be someone else, so means pretending to be someone else, है ना? इसका which are not real, yeah. Many of the accounts are not real on the social media sites, like social media platform. So it is one of the basic social engineering technique, impersonation. So that can be used either as a consensus, liking, intimidating approach. So this is possible where the target cannot verify the attacker's identity easily, like over the phone or the email message, right? जहाँ से target जो like any person जिसको भी target किया जा रहा है वो आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पाएगा अटैकर की क्या आइडेंटिटी रियल आइडेंटिटी है, चाहे फोन पे चाहे वो ईमेल पे. So they are basically trying to be pretending to be someone else. So the classic impersonation attack is for the social engineer to phone into the department, claim they have to adjust something on the user system remotely, and get the user to reveal their password. So this particular specific attack is also referred to as pretexting. Now, see, this person who is, available on this particular slide. So this basically depicts this impersonation only. Like, do you really know who's on the other end of the line? If you're receiving any call from the unknown number, are you really aware who's on the other end of the line? No, right? Any like there could be pretty good chances that anyone can pretend to be someone else. So making a convincing impersonation, establishing trust with the target, that usually depends upon the target or attacker obtaining some privileged information about the organization. Now, for example, where the attacker impersonate a member of the organization's IT support team. है ना, अगर एक अटैकर ने किसी IT support team बन के बात की है, then attack will be more effective with identity details of the person being impersonated and the target as well. So there are some social engineering techniques which are dedicated to obtaining this type of intelligence as the reconnaissance activity. So that all depends what kind of information they are trying to fetch out from that particular social engineering technique. So as most companies, they are set up toward customer service rather than the security. So this information is typically quite easy to come by information that might seem, you know, innocuous, such as department employee list, job title, phone number, diaries, invoices, purchase order. So these things can help the attacker penetrate an organization through impersonation. So this is basically pretending to be someone else, use the persona or to charm or to intimidate, सामने वाले को convince कर लेना, exploit situations where identity proofing is required. So if they are pretending to be like from the IT department and they are trying to fix the system remotely, and they will be able to fetch out the relevant details from the employee on the over the call. So this is basically pretexting where they are using a scenario. जैसे कोई system downtime चल रहा है, उस scenario को use करके they will be convincing to get out the additional details. Then trust, they obtain or spoof data that supports the identity claim. So they will be able to obtain or spoof such kind of data जिसमें किसी की identity claim हो रही हो. So that's how they are breaching the trust of the people, right? So this was all about impersonation and trust. Any doubts in this slide, guys? All right. Then we have dumpster diving and tailgating. अच्छा, डंपस्टर डाइविंग क्या होगा? डंप का मतलब समझते हैं, जो चीज हमने डंप कर दी, थ्रो कर दी है ना? So this is basically, dumpster diving is basically, refers to combining through an organization, or that could be the individuals as well, garbage to try to find useful documents or even files which are stored on discarded removable media. जो चीजें डंप कर दी गई हैं by the organization, by the individual, that is basically a garbage for that particular organization or the individual. So they diving, they are actually diving, they are finding out the files, which are with some useful documents out from that discarded removable media. So remember that attacks may be staged over a long period. So initial attacks may only aim at compromising some low level information, user accounts, but this low level information can be used to attack more sensitive and confidential data and better protected management and administrative accounts. So dumpster diving is all about like sticky documents and media from the crash, from the dump, right? Then we have tailgating. So this is basically access premises covertly and then follow someone else to a door. Tailgating क्या है? पूंछ बन के किसी के पीछे पीछे चले जाना. So this is basically the thing is. So entering a secure area, like we have office premises, campus premises में क्या है? We are not allowed to enter the campus without wearing ID card. मतलब वो कभी कभी ऐसा हो जाता है, they allow, but अगर वो strictness कर दे CU campus में भी, so if someone who is not having I-card, they are not allowed to enter the campus. That means you do not have access to get into the campus, right? So tailgating is basically entering a secure area without authorization. Now our I-card is our identity proof. Authorization हो जाती है उससे. So when someone enters the secure area without authorization, how? By following close behind the person that has been allowed to open the door or the checkpoint. Like क्या होता है? In some organization there are access badges where you need to tap the badge and the door will be opened for you, and then you can get into the campus or get into the premises or the office or the cabin, right? अगर कोई इतना क्लोजली आपको फॉलो कर रहा है, आपने अपना बैज लगाया और उसने भी साथ साथ अपनी एंट्री ले ली, सो दैट इज बेसिकली टेल गेटिंग. ठीक है. देन वी हैव पिगी बैकिंग. ये भी सिमिलर सी टर्म है, सिमिलर सी सिचुएशन में यूज होता है, पिगी बैकिंग. So this is similar situation, like is a similar situation, but the thing is the attacker enters a secure area with an employee's permission. अब tailgating में तो unknowingly वो उसको follow करता करता चला गया, एक प्रेमिसेस में एंटर हो गया, डोर के थ्रू एंट्री ले ली, जो भी सिनेरियो रहा है. पिगी बैकिंग में क्या हुआ है, the access premises without authorization but with the knowledge of the employee. Like, I'm the employee, I have the access badge. If someone get successful in manipulating me that I'm a new employee over here, this is my first day, I've not received the access badge, so I'll be getting it today, will you please help me to get inside the campus with your access badge or something like that. ऐसे ऐसे scenarios use करना. तो मैं being an employee, तो मैं मतलब एक बीइंग अ ह्यूमन है ना, आउट ऑफ कर्टेसी, तो मैं अपने एक्सेस से मतलब अंदर उसे आने दे दूंगी जो भी है. तो मेरी एम्प्लॉय के परमिशन से वो आ गया, लेकिन वो अनऑथराइज्ड पर्सन है. So this is piggybacking. So an attacker might impersonate a member of the cleaning crew. कोई ऐसा भी कह सकता है कि मैं यहाँ इसमें हूँ, साफ सफाई वाले डिपार्टमेंट में, क्लीनिंग क्रू, एंड कैन रिक्वेस्ट एम्प्लॉय टू होल्ड द डोर ओपन व्हाइल दे ब्रिंग देयर क्लीनिंग कार्ट, मॉप, बकेट और समथिंग लाइक दैट, कि मेरे हैंड्स तो बिजी हैं, आप प्लीज मेरे लिए थोड़ी देर डोर ओपन रखोगे. और एनी लेडी हु इज कैरिंग अ लॉट मेनी बैग्स, हैंड बैग है, लैपटॉप बैग है, टिफिन बैग है, सब कुछ है, तो मतलब इट्स क्वाइट हार्ड फॉर मी टू ओपन द डोर, कैन यू प्लीज ओपन इट फॉर मी. तो आउट ऑफ कर्टेसी एनीवन विल डू इट. तो लेकिन वो अनऑथराइज्ड पर्सन है. सो दिस इज बेसिकली पिग्गीबैकिंग. So that means maybe a means of an insider threat attacker actor to allow access to someone without recording it in the building's entry log, और ऐसे ऐसे excuses से बातों में आ जाना और allow कर देना. So this is piggybacking. So this is all about dumpster diving, tailgating and piggybacking. Is it clear to you all, guys? I hope you can relate social engineering जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं. Okay. Then we have identity fraud and invoice scams. Now identity fraud क्या होता है? ये भी एक impersonation, just so ये भी impersonation का ही part हो गया. Specific type of impersonation we can say where someone is trying to be someone else. तो वहाँ identity fraud हो रहा है. You are using someone else's identity, है ना? Where the attacker uses specific details of someone's identity. So this is basically impersonation with some convincing detail and stolen or spoof proofs. So typical consumer identity fraud is using someone else's name and address to make a loan application, or using some stolen credit card details to start a mobile phone contract or something like that. Like, see, we all have, like, not we all have, but yes, we have uh, basic details of our friends with us, है ना? If someone who is our friend but with bad intentions, they can misuse our information which is with him or her, like my name, my mother father name, my contact number, as well as my address. So these are the basic things. So these can be misused by anyone out there. Identity fraud ho sakta hai. So the fraudster will usually spoof the invoice details of the genuine supplier but change the bank account number. So this might rely on the target not double checking the account, or it might be combined with social engineering contact call to convince the target that the account change is genuine or something like that. So sometimes when we use these terms, identity fraud, identity theft, so they are basically used to distinguish between making up an identity versus stealing someone else's identity. Identity fraud क्या होता है? जब आपकी identity किसी और ने misuse की है ना? Making मतलब उसको आपकी specific details use करके identity use हुई है आपकी. So where the attacker use specific details of someone's identity. So this is basically making up an identity. तो ये identity fraud हो गया. But अगर identity theft की बात करें, चोरी हो जाना theft है ना, stolen. So that means stealing someone else's identity. So when we talk about attacks in terms of attacks on this corporate networks. Identity fraud is likely to involve like compromising a computer account. So there are various engineering techniques that can be used to obtain account credentials without having to rely on malware, without going with any kind of malware or anything like that. With the help of social engineering techniques, account details, account credentials can be obtained. So apart from eliciting credential information from a user directly, there are some techniques like credential databases. Then we have shoulder surfing, lunchtime attacks could be there. Now, credential harvesting or credential databases में क्या होता है? Account details from the previous attacks which are widely available. So, an attacker can try to match a target in one of the database and hope that they have reused a password. कोई भी इनके पास जो पहले का डेटा अवेलेबल पड़ा है, तो उसमें से कोई भी ऐसे टारगेट उठा के देख सकते हैं कि अगर शायद किसी ने इसका पासवर्ड अपना पासवर्ड रीयूज किया हो. Attacker could also leverage some third party site for impersonation. Like rather than using work account, they could gain control of the social media account. Just a second. And we have shoulder surfing. Shoulder surfing, as a name uh, depicts the meaning. So the threat actor can lean a password or pin by watching the user type it. कोई आपके इतना क्लोजली आपको टाइपिंग करते ही देख ले आपका क्या पासवर्ड है क्या पिन है. So, despite the name, the attacker may not have to be close proximity to the target. They could use high powered binoculars, CCTV to directly observe the target remotely. तो ज़रूरी नहीं है कि उन्होंने आपके कंधे से ही देखना है या फिर आपका बिल्कुल पास आके ही उन्होंने आपका पिन या पासवर्ड चोरी करना है. So this thing can happen with the help of high powered binoculars. दूरबीन से कर सकते हैं, CCTV से कर सकते हैं. Then we have lunchtime attacks. It's most authentication methods which are dependent on physical security of the workstation. अब फिजिकल सिक्योरिटी होना भी इतना ही ज़रूरी है जितना हम बाकी सिक्योरिटी को इम्पोर्टेंस देते हैं. So, if a user leaves a workstation unattended while locked on, अगर मैं अपनी स्क्रीन लॉक किए बिना चली गई अपना वर्कस्टेशन छोड़ के, एंड अटैकर कैन फिजिकली गेन एक्सेस टू द सिस्टम. ये तो एक बेसिक सी चीज़ है जो हम हमारी एक हैबिट भी बन चुकी है कि whenever we have to leave our place, leave our desk, we have to lock the system so that no one else can peek into my system physically. Access ना दे सके मेरे सिस्टम का. So this is often described as lunchtime attacks because this is something which happens when you are in hurry. एकदम से आपको जाना पड़ा. Sorry. So most operating systems are set to activate a password protecting screensaver after a defined period of no keyboard or mouse activity. ऐसा होता है ना अगर हम कीबोर्ड माउस नहीं यूज कर रहे तो कुछ 5 मिनट जितना भी टाइमर सेट किया हुआ है तो एज पर योर सेटिंग्स ऑफ योर ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम तो वो अपने आप ही लॉक हो जाती है आपकी स्क्रीन. So users should also be trained to log or log off the workstation whenever they leave it unattended. Sorry. So this is all about identity fraud and invoice scams. Shall we move to the next slide? Okay, guys. Then we have phishing, whaling, and wishing. Now, probably I'm not sure about all, लेकिन हो सकता है आप टर्म से अवेयर ना हो, लेकिन आप जो इनमें हो रहा है फिशिंग, वेलिंग, विशिंग में उससे अवेयर हो गए कि इसमें है क्या. Credential harvesting. So that is basically where the account details from a previous attacks are widely available. जो भी पहले अटैक हुए हैं उन सब की अकाउंट डिटेल्स जो हैं वाइडली जो अवेलेबल है थ्रू ऑन द इंटरनेट और मे बी समथिंग लाइक दैट. So the attacker, so that can be checked through this. Let me share a link with you guys. You may check through this that so an attacker, what the attacker may do, they can try to match a target in one of these databases. The credential harvesting is happening where they're actually trying to fetch out the details of the credentials. So the attacker may try to match a target in one of these databases which are available and hope that they have reused a password. लाइक हमने कभी जीमेल अपने किसी भी अकाउंट का जो पासवर्ड रखा था हो सकता है कि कुछ ओवर द टाइम पीरियड वी रीयूज दैट पासवर्ड. So the attacker could also leverage some third party site for impersonation. Impersonation is pretending to be someone else. So that may happen rather than using a work account. So they could gain control of a social media account. वो सोशल मीडिया अकाउंट पे एक्सेस गेन करके और बहुत सी ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन फेच आउट कर लेंगे. सो देयर कुड बी चांसेस कि किसी का सेम पासवर्ड होता है तो उनके किसी और अकाउंट पे भी सेम पासवर्ड ट्राई करके ऐसे हार्वेस्ट करके कर लेंगे. क्रेडेंशियल हार्वेस्टिंग इट कुड हैपन. ओके मिलन. नाउ we are here at phishing, wheeling and wishing. Phishing क्या है basically? It's combination of social engineering and spoofing. So basically, it persuades or tricks the target into interacting with malicious resource discussed as a trusted one, traditionally using an email as the vector. Like अभी थोड़ी देर पहले we were discussing कि ऐसे बहुत रियल भी लगेंगी कईयों को कि you have won this much amount, or if someone is giving you very good offers, so that is basically phishing, but they are actually fooling you. So tricking the target into using the malicious resource, whatever they have attached in that particular link. If you get so curious, or you get convinced in order to click on that particular link of the which you have received in the email, so that is basically phishing. Phishing is basically happening over the emails. तो बेसिकली आपका सोशल इंजीनियरिंग और स्पूफिंग को इंटरमिक्स करके फिशिंग बना है. तो फिशिंग मैसेज, जो भी फिशिंग मेल आएगा, दे माइट ट्राई टू कन्विंस द यूजर टू परफॉर्म सम एक्शन and like action में कुछ भी हो सकता है, such as installing some discussed malware or allowing a remote access connection by the attacker. There could be anything which is the whatever the task is assigned to that thing, है ना. इतना उसको कन्विंस करने वाली बात होती है कि इतना कन्विंस करना कि वो किसी एक्शन को परफॉर्म करने के लिए रेडी हो जाएं. So other types of phishing campaign use a spoof website set up to imitate a bank, e-commerce site, some other web resource that should be trusted by the target. So the attacker then email the user of the genuine website, informing them their account must be updated or with some sort of some alert or the alarm, supplying some link. So that is basically led to the spoof site. So when the user authenticates with the spoof site, their login credentials are captured. अगर वो ऐसे कोई भी ऐसा लगे कि हमारे बैंक से मेल आई है एंड दे ट्राई टू लॉग इन ऑनटू दैट पर्टिकुलर लिंक जो भी मेल में शेयर हुआ है, तो ऐसे तो यूजर के क्रेडेंशियल्स जो है लीक हो जाएंगे. So spoof legitimate communications and sites. This is what happening in phishing. Now see, इसमें एक image भी attached है. So this is basically an example of phishing email. Now on the right, you can see the messages in XCrew form as the mail client has typed out formatting, which is shown on the left. So designed to discuss the nature of the links. कैसे इसका जो इसमें डिफरेंस समझ आ रहा है आपको दोनों मेल्स में? Your ACME Corp subscription invoice is ready. Just by looking at the images, are you able to differentiate? Yes. Then we have spear phishing. A phishing scam where the attacker has some information that makes the individual target more likely to be fooled by the attack. अगर attacker के पास कुछ information है individual target के लिए तो फिर वो उसको ज़्यादा अच्छे से बेवकूफ़ बना सकता है. So each phishing message is tailored to address a specific target user. एक specific person के लिए they ACME दोनों ही ACME गए हैं बच्चे, लेकिन एक इसमें से रियल है, लेकिन एक बिल्कुल ही यू नो फिशिंग मेल का है. जस्ट अ सेकंड. So each phishing message, which is tailored to address a specific target user, the attacker might know the name of the document that the target is editing, for instance, and send some kind of malicious copy. So that phishing email might show the attacker knows the recipient's full name, job title, telephone number, and other details that help to convince the target that the communication is genuine. कुछ ऐसी डिटेल्स हो उस मेल में जिससे लगे कि हाँ communication is genuine. Yes. Logo is missing. So that is spear phishing, where it is highly targeted, tailored attack, which is basically for that specific target. Then we have whaling. Spear phishing attack जो है directed specifically against some upper levels of management in the organization. Big fish मतलब वो एक बड़ी मच्छी पकड़ने के उसमें रहते हैं. So that basically they target CEOs or some directors, managers. So upper management may also be more vulnerable to ordinary phishing attacks because of the reluctance to learn basic security procedures. So whaling में क्या है कि they are there to capture the big fish actually. So targeting senior management. Then wishing using a voice channel if you're receiving any phone call, voice channel के through अगर आपका phishing attack हो रहा है, so that is wishing. So targets could be called by someone, they are trying to represent their bank, asking them to verify recent credit card transaction, requesting their security details, ऐसी fraud calls जो आती हैं. So it can be much more difficult for someone to refuse a request made in a phone call as compared to the request which is made in the email. But you need to be blunt in this. If you feel something suspicious over the call, then you don't need to entertain such people. Then we have smishing, that is basically using text messages. Short message service जो होती है हमारी SMS text communication. So that is basically being used in smishing. So we have phishing, wishing, smishing, whaling, and spear phishing. Is it clear to you all? Yes, SMS Kartike. I hope now that you all have the idea about social engineering, what exactly is happening, and so on. So it is basically dealing with the human psychology, manipulate karna, trust gain karna, and convince kar dena ki they are convinced enough to perform the action which is, you know, which is in the favor of the attacker. Okay, just hold on for 2-3 minutes, guys. Now that we have spam, hoaxes, and pretending, how many of you are aware of this term spam? I think majority is, spam mails कौन सी होती है? Spam क्या होता है? Yes, guys. So, any unsolicited email, or we can say spam term जो हम बहुत use करते हैं. So, this is used as a vector of for many kind of attacks. Unnecessary mail, fake mails, unwanted. Yes. So, this may help the attack. So, this may help to build the path of the attack. Yes. तो वो uh, that may that may be used as a vector for many attacks. That means कि क्या path बन सकता है attack perform करने का. Actors जो होते हैं, threat actors, they harvest the email address from marketing list, जो भी databases पड़े हैं उनके पास, of historic privacy breaches, might try to target every email address at a certain company. So mass mail attacks that could be perpetrated over any type of instant messaging or internet messaging service. So that is basically SPIM. So this is what is being covered in spam, unsolicited email, email address harvesting is happening, from which they are getting plenty of email addresses. Spam over internet messaging, SPIM. Then we have hoaxes. Now, such as security alerts or the chain emails, there are another common social engineering technique, which is often combined with phishing attacks. So, which is basically hoaxes. So, an email alert or the web pop-up that will claim to have identified some sort of security problem, virus infection, and they offer a tool to fix the problem. कुछ ऐसा सा अलर्ट शो करना कि सिक्योरिटी प्रॉब्लम है, कोई वायरस इन्फेक्शन है, एंड दिस इज द टूल इन ऑर्डर टू फिक्स द प्रॉब्लम, गेट हेल्प फ्रॉम दिस टूल. सो द टूल ऑफ द कोर्स ऑफ जो भी टूल होगा, दैट ऑफ कोर्स विल बी सम सॉर्ट ऑफ ट्रोजन एप्लीकेशन. So ये exploit कर देगा the use of space on the legitimate website. It's set aside for advertising, some served from the content delivery networks without much oversight. So the criminals will also use sophisticated phone call scams to trick users into revealing the login credential, financial account details, and so on. So this is delivered as spam, or malvertising is basically which exploits the use of space on the legitimate website, which set aside for advertising, some served from the content delivery networks without much oversight. Then there is fake AV to get user to install remote desktop, and a fake like virus kind of thing to install remote desktop software, phone-based scams. So this phishing or the hoax email that can be made more convincing by prepending. Now, prepending is something where you know, in an offensive sense, prepending means adding text that appears to have been generated by the mail system. कोई ऐसा टेक्स्ट ऐड करना जो कि ऐसा लगे कि मेल सिस्टम की तरफ से ही जनरेट किया गया है. So this basically involves like tagging email subject line. So, for example, an attacker may add RE, like ऐसा लगे, the to the subject line to make it appear as through the message is a reply, or may add something like mail safe passed. कुछ ऐसे ऐसे messages बीच में लगा देना, कि ऐसे tags लगा देना to make it appear as through a message has been scanned, accepted by some security software. जब भी आप कुछ डाउनलोड करने लगते हो तो देयर इज आपका ड्राइव की तरफ से एक सिक्योर चेकअप होता है, देन ओनली द डाउनलोड गेट स्टार्टेड. सो दैट बेसिकली ऐसा कुछ टैगलाइन लगा देना कि सामने वाला सोचे कि ये तो स्कैन्ड है, ये तो एक्सेप्टेड है सिक्योरिटी सॉफ्टवेयर से. सो कन्वर्सली सम मेल सिस्टम्स दैट मे परफॉर्म प्रिपेंडिंग लेजिटिमेटली, जिसमें टैगिंग होती है एक्सटर्नल मैसेजेस की, और मैसेजेस के साथ एक वार्निंग लगी होती है इफ दे हैव नॉट बीन डेफिनेटली आइडेंटिफाइड स्पैम, but they do have some suspicious elements. So by following those such kind of tags, the prepending can be done. Tagging email subject line that can be used by threat actor as the consensus or the urgency technique, and that can be added by mail system to warn the users as well. So this is all about prepending. Is it clear to you all? Okay, guys. Then we have farming and credential harvesting. All right. So direct messages to a single contact, they have a quite high chance of failure. Other social engineering techniques में क्या आता है? They still use the spoofed resources such as fake sites, login pages, but rely on some redirection or passive methods to entrap the victims over there. So there are passive techniques which have less, risk of detection. So farming redirection to redirection by DNS spoofing. Farming is basically a passive attack, which means we are redirecting users from a legitimate website to a malicious one. एक ओरिजिनल वेबसाइट से malicious वेबसाइट पे उनको redirect कर रहे हैं. Rather than using social engineering techniques to trick the user, they are using farming. Farming किस पे rely करती है? Corrupting the way the victim's computer performs internet name resolution. So as they are redirected from the genuine site to malicious one. Just say for an example, अगर कोई site है mybank.foo, they should point to the IP address 2.2.2.2. तो फार्मिंग अटैक में क्या होगा, वो इसको करप्ट कर देगा नेम रेजोल्यूशन प्रोसेस को, और उसको किस पे पॉइंट कर देगा, किसी नए आईपी एड्रेस पे, प्रोबेबली 6.6.6 और एनी अदर आईपी एड्रेस. सो दे आर बेसिकली रीडायरेक्टिंग. हॉक्सेस एंड स्पैम. नाउ सी हॉक्सेस में क्या होता है कि कुछ ऐसी टेक्निक लगती है जो फिशिंग टेक्निक के साथ मिक्स हुई हुई है. एक ईमेल अलर्ट आना या फिर कोई पॉपअप मैसेज आना आपके ब्राउजर पे कि आपका इस पे कुछ सिक्योरिटी प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई हुआ है और देयर इज सम काइंड ऑफ वायरस इन्फेक्शन, एंड दिस इज द टूल टू फिक्स दैट इन्फेक्शन. क्लिक ऑन द टूल, एक्सेस द टूल एंड फिक्स योर इन्फेक्शन और समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो ये हॉक्सेस रहते हैं. स्पैम में क्या है? सो दैट बेसिकली some kind of अनवांटेड मेल, अनसॉलिसिटेड मेल हमें जो रिसीव होती है. लेकिन इसमें क्या है, हॉक्सिस में वाइल ब्राउजिंग इंटरनेट, आप कुछ नेट पे सर्फ कर रहे हो और एकदम से कोई ऐसा अलर्ट आ जाना या पॉपअप आ जाना कि ये प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई हुई है आपके सिस्टम पे, तो आप इसे अभी इस टूल के साथ फिक्स कर लो. एक इमीडिएट सा अर्जेंसी में दिखना, जैसे कि अभी अभी फिक्स करना है. सो दिस इज हाउ दे गेट successful in tricking the user. Now, is it clear, Priyanshu? एंड फार्मिंग का मतलब समझ आ गया? फार्मिंग में क्या हो रहा है? रीडायरेक्शन बाय डीएनएस स्पूफिंग, दैट मीन्स उसके पर्सन को नहीं वो कुछ भी मैनिपुलेट कर रहे, दे आर एक्चुअली रीडायरेक्टिंग द पर्सन फ्रॉम लेजिटिमेट वेबसाइट टू द मलिशियस वन. कि जिस आईपी एड्रेस पे उसको नेविगेट करना था, उसकी बजाय किसी और आईपी एड्रेस पे नेविगेट कर रहे हैं विदाउट द पर्सनस नॉलेज. Then we have typo squatting. So typo squatting is basically rather than redirection, like हमने farming में redirection पढ़ी है, इसमें क्या करेगा threat actor, they use typo squatting. क्या होता है ये? So this means that the threat actor, they register a domain name that is very similar to the real one. जैसे हमारे ये CompTIA.org है ना? तो मान लो हम CompTIA.org से हमने सारा ये कंटेंट लिया है, तो मान लो उन्होंने कोई ऐसा डोमेन रजिस्टर कर लिया जो बिल्कुल इससे सिमिलर लगता हो, लाइक दिस, जिसको कई बार हमें सुनने में भी मिस्टेक हो जाती है. किसी से ना CompTIA, तो हमने ऐसे सर्च किया और ये आ गया, तो हम इस पे अगर नेविगेट कर ले. Now this will hoping that user will not notice the difference, but these are also referred to as, some cousins, look-alike, some ganger domains. So typo squatting might be used for farming and phishing attacks. So this is another technique that is used to register a hijacked subdomain using the primary domain of a trusted cloud provider. So कुछ भी ऐसे CompTIA का जैसे इन्होंने मान लो ऐसा सा कोई copied सा domain ले लिया. So this is typo squatting. So use cousin domains instead of redirection. Redirection की जरूरत ही नहीं है. मेरे से टाइपिंग मिस्टेक होगी और उन्होंने ऐसा डोमेन खरीद रखा है तो मैं उस पे चलेगी. Make phishing messages more convincing. तो इसमें और कन्विंसिंग हो जाएंगे. अगर मुझे इससे मैसेजेस आएंगे मुझे लगेगा CompTIA से ही आ रहे हैं. Then we have watering hole. Watering hole attack जो है वो ये भी एक passive attack है. So this is passive technique where the threat actor does not have to risk communicating directly with the target. वो directly communicate ही नहीं कर रहे हैं target से इसमें. So it relies on the circumstances that a group of targets may use an unsecured third party website. कुछ ऐसे circumstances पे rely कर रहे हैं कि काफी सारे लोग एक ऐसे unsecured third party website को वो करें, access करें. So staff running an international e-commerce site might use a local pizza delivery firm. So if an attacker can compromise a pizza delivery firm website or deploy a type of malvertising, so they may be able to infect the computer of the e-commerce company's employee and penetrate the e-commerce company systems. So कुछ ऐसे उसके तलाश में रहते हैं कि जैसे अब being a part of university, so if we employees are preferring Zomato over Swiggy, Zomato ज़्यादा order कर रहे हैं अगर हम सब, तो वो Zomato को जो है टारगेट बना के उसको वो करेंगे, कॉम्प्रोमाइज करेंगे, so that वो हमारे किसी न किसी जो है उस पे हमारे अकाउंट्स तक पहुंच सके. So this is how they get access to the company's employees and penetrate into the company's system. This is how it happens. So target a third party site. जो third party site जो भी हम access कर रहे हैं, customers, suppliers, hobbies, social media, so these things can be fetched out. Then we have credential harvesting. So this is basically the attack which is focused on obtaining the credential for sale rather than direct intrusion. So within the general this realm of this phishing, farming, credential harvesting is basically a campaign which is specifically designed to steal account credentials. How your account credentials can be stolen. So the attacker may have more interest in selling the database of captured logins. जो अटैकर जिसने काफी सारे लॉगिन कैप्चर कर लिए हैं तो उसका क्या पता है इसमें इंटरेस्ट हो कि उसने अब सारे डेटाबेस को बेचना है. देन ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लॉइट देम डायरेक्टली, उसका कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है कि उसको कोई एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं करना, उसने बस जो डेटाबेस उसने निकाला है उसको बेच देगा. सो दे फोकस ऑन ऑब्टेनिंग क्रेडेंशियल फॉर सेल. उसने क्यों क्रेडेंशियल्स निकाले थे? क्योंकि उसने फिर फर्दर वो डेटाबेस किसी को सेल करना है रेदर देन डायरेक्ट इंट्रूजन. उसका कोई इंटेंशन नहीं उस पर अटैक करने का, वो सामने वाला जो खरीदेगा उसकी मर्जी है उसने क्या करना है. So the attack focused on obtaining multiple credentials for single company. एक single company के multiple credentials निकाल दें. Such attacks will use an alarming message. Your account is being used to host child pornography. There is problem with your account storage, or they link some farming site embroidered, like with the logos of this let's make service provider like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter. So the attacks using malvertising or the scripts which are injected into shopping cart code, they are also popular. So the targeted credential harvesting maybe that might be directed against a single company's password reset or the account management portal. So this is about it. For your information, there is one article that we have by David Storm. Now, is this particular slide clear to you all regarding farming and credential harvesting, guys? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Influence campaigns. Now, what exactly is there in influence campaigns? An influence campaign, that is a major program which is launched by an adversary with high level of capability. Like नेशन स्टेट एक्टर होते हैं जिसमें टेररिस्ट ग्रुप होते हैं, एक्टिविस्ट ग्रुप होते हैं, जिनका कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के साथ रिलेशन होता है. So the goal of an influence campaign is to shift public opinion on some topic. पब्लिक ओपिनियन का किसी एक टॉपिक पे सारा शिफ्ट करना. So these are sophisticated threat actors which are using multiple resources to change opinions on a mass scale. पूरी पब्लिक का एक ओपिनियन चेंज करना किसी पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक पे on a mass scale, this is happening. How they are influencing the people. So this is basically a campaign being run. So the most high profile influence campaigns, they have been detected target election activity. So we all are pretty aware of politics, है ना? But actors, they may use such campaigns to pursue a number of goals. There could be a plenty of goals an attacker might be having. With state actors, the concept of soft power that refers to some diplomatic cultural asset to achieve an objective. So that is basically leveraging the diplomatic cultural asset. That is a soft power of the campaign. When deployed along with espionage, some kind of disinformation, some kind of fake news, if we have, and hacking, a hostile campaign can be characterized as hybrid warfare. One is a soft power where it is leveraging the diplomatic and cultural assets. Then we have hybrid warfare where there is use of espionage, some kind of disinformation, or we can say the fake news which is being spread, and the hacking. Then we have social media. कैंपेन्स का तो मेन पार्ट सोशल मीडिया पे ही ज्यादा रहता है ना. Use of hacked account, bot accounts, they spread rumor, reinforce some kind of messaging. So this is basically diplomatic activity. Election meddling होती है जो meddling by foreign security services. They have a very long history and well established tactics. Modern campaigns में क्या होता है? वो सोशल मीडिया को प्रेफर करते हैं to ensure wide distribution of hoaxes, invented stories, ऐसे फेक से मैसेजेस, फेक से ईमेल्स, फेक सा इन्वेंटेड स्टोरीज इन्होंने स्प्रेड करनी है, तो कहाँ से जल्दी स्प्रेड होएगी? सोशल मीडिया पे होएगी. सो एक्टर्स क्या करते हैं, ये जो थ्रेट एक्टर्स हैं, दे कैन यूज आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस असिस्टेड बोट्स, एआई बोट्स यूज करते हैं, एंड आर्मीज ऑफ द पीपल टू ओपन और हैक अकाउंट्स. ऐसे कुछ अकाउंट ओपन करना, उनको हैक करना, रिपीट करना, रीइंफोर्स करना मैसेजेस को, दैट सपोर्ट द कैंपेन्स एम्स. So this is all being covered in the social media. So this is about influence campaign, how we are actually, influencing the people with the help of this campaign, which is the high level of capability, such as nation state actor, terrorist group, or activist group. Clear, guys? Then coming to the topic 4D, we are analyzing indicators of malware based attacks. Malware की full form किस किसको पता है? What is malware? What is malware, guys? Guys, do you know the full form of malware? Malicious software containing viruses. The full form of malware is malicious software, right? Now let's discuss about malware specification, all about malicious software specific classification. So when we talk about threat, one of the most prevalent threats to computers today is malicious code. है ना, कोई भी ऐसा कोड रन हो जाना जिसका इंटेंशन मॉलिशियस है, देन दिस may lead to the security breach. So as a security professional, you will likely have experience in dealing with some unwanted software infecting your system. being a security professional, you should have enough knowledge about how you need to deal with some unwanted software which is infecting the systems. So by classifying the types of malware, various types of malware, identifying the signs of infection, कि इस malware का क्या sign of infection रहता है, you will be better prepared to remediate compromised system or prevent malware from executing in the first place. Once you have enough knowledge about the different malwares existing in the system, then you will be able to deal with those malwares and how you can prevent it from executing, right? So talking about malware classification, now many of the intrusion attempts, they are perpetrated against the computer networks. That depends upon the use of the malicious software or the term malware which we are using. So malware is usually simply defined as a software that does something bad, है ना? Malicious का मतलब ही ऐसा है, जिसकी intentions बुरी हो. तो malicious software malware क्या हुआ कि ऐसा सॉफ्टवेयर जिसकी इंटेंशन ही ऐसे हैं कि कुछ बुरा करना है from the perspective of the system owner. So there are many types of malware, but they are not classified in some rigorous way. So some definitions overlap or some are blurred, we can say. Some malware classification, like we have trojans, viruses, worms, they focus on the vector used by the malware. So classification by vector or the infection method, what kind of infection this particular malware comes up with, we can classify it. So the vector, that is basically the method by which the malware executes on the computer, potentially spread to the other network hosts, and so on. The first category, which is of malware that we have, is viruses and worms. वायरस और वॉर्म के बारे में किसने कितना सुना है? And if you have heard about virus and worm, are you aware of full form of virus and worm? Guys, वायरस और worm की full form क्या है? Vital information and resources under siege. Information resources, virus information under. Priyanshu, don't you think here some alphabets are missing? Virus may destroy your software and leak your data, information resources. Okay, yes. And worm, जनरली मॉलवेयर की जैसे क्लासिफिकेशंस हैं अलग अलग, वायरस, वर्म, ट्रोजन्स. तो जब भी कुछ ऐसा सस्पिशियस होता है, राइट वंस रीड मेनी. सो या राइट. सो द थिंग इज, जब भी कुछ ऐसी एक्टिविटी, अनवांटेड एक्टिविटी ऑब्जर्व होती है, तो दिस इज बेसिकली वायरस. तो ऐसी टर्म है जो बड़ी कॉमनली यूज हो जाती है, वायरस. हाँ भी वायरस आ गया, वायरस है. समथिंग वेरी common term, we can say, which is being used. So they represent the first types of malware, virus and worms. And they spread without any authorization from the user by being concealed with the executable code of another process. The thing is, virus is also, ये क्या है, ये जो malware है, we are saying malicious software. अगर ये software है तो programming language भी लगी है, कोई code भी है इसका, तब ये software है. So that means there is some programming which has been done in order to execute a particular task. इसके साथ कोई ना कोई task assign किया हुआ है कि अगर इसको execute करेंगे तो ये डेटा कैप्चर करेगा, डेटा करप्ट कर देगा, फाइल को करप्ट कर देगा, या जो भी उसके साथ टास्क असाइन किया हुआ है ना. So they comes up with some kind of purpose. So वायरस क्या होता है, एक ऐसा ही प्रोग्राम कोड है जो कि हमारी legitimate फाइल्स के साथ अटैच हो जाता है. They attaches themselves to those files, and when we execute that file, जो भी हमारी मीडिया फाइल है, इमेज है, कुछ भी है लगा लो, तो उसको जब ओपन करेंगे तो इट करप्ट दैट फाइल जो भी, या फिर उसके उसका टास्क असाइन किया हुआ इसको, तो जब वो एग्जीक्यूट हो जाएगा साथ में. And they both the things, both the malware, they are spreading within the code without authorization. The person it's himself or herself is unaware कि कुछ ऐसा एग्जीक्यूट भी हो रहा है, तो बिना किसी ऑथराइजेशन के, बिना किसी परमिशंस के, बिना किसी वार्निंग के ये बस एग्जीक्यूट हो जाता है अपना अपने आप से. ठीक है, because they are being concealed with the executable code of some another process. एंड वॉर्म्स की एक खासियत है, वो नेटवर्क ढूंढते हैं इन ऑर्डर टू गेट स्प्रेड. एक बार ये किसी के साथ अटैच होगी, उसके बाद वो सिस्टम के साथ जो भी नेटवर्क कनेक्ट होगा, किसी के साथ भी वो सिस्टम कनेक्ट होगा, इसने खुद ही ट्रैवल करना शुरू कर देना है, एक सिस्टम से दूसरे सिस्टम, एक नेटवर्क से दूसरे नेटवर्क, एंड इट गोज ऑन स्प्रेडिंग further and furthermore. Then we have Trojan. So this is the malware which is concealed within an installer package for software that appears to be legitimate. ऐसा लगना कि ये थोड़ा लेजिटिमेट सॉफ्टवेयर है, ऐसा कोई पैकेज है कि हम इसे एग्जीक्यूट कर सकते हैं. बट दिस टाइप ऑफ malware doesn't seek any type of consent for installation and is actively designed to operate secretly. ट्रोजन क्या है, सीक्रेटली अपना टास्क परफॉर्म करता रहेगा, लेकिन हमें ऐसा कोड लगेगा कि ये बड़ा लेजिटिमेट है ये मॉलिशियस प्रोग्राम, लेकिन हम हमारी नजर में ये लेजिटिमेट होगा, लेकिन ये हमारा डेटा चोरी करता रहेगा, whatever the task is assigned. So potentially unwanted programs or the application, PUPs or PUAs, which are unwanted programs or applications. So these are the software which are installed alongside a package which is selected by the user. हम कोई पैकेज सिलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, perhaps bundled with some new computer system. So unlike Trojan, जो presence है PUP की, potentially unwanted program की, ये automatically is not automatically regarded as malicious. So it may have been installed without active consent or consent from purposefully confusing license agreement. कोई ऐसा license agreement आ गया तो हमने इसको accept कर लिया, consent ले लिया, या फिर इन्होंने हमारा consent लिया भी नहीं. So this type of software is sometimes described as grayware rather than malware. यानी धुंधले से सिनेरियो में रख के यूजर को, और remote access Trojan rat, yeah. So धुंधले से, so where they are accessing through remotely. So these are the pre-installed bloatware or installed alongside some another application. They are not completely concealed, but installation may be covered. So they may be called, they are also called grayware. Then we have classification by payload. This is another classification. Payload which is delivered by the malware. Payload क्या रहता है, is an action which is performed by the malware other than simply replicating or persisting on a host. ठीक है, मतलब पेलोड में क्या होता है, एग्जाम्पल क्या है हमारे पास. One of the example includes spyware, then we have rootkit, remote access trojan, rat और the ransomware. आपने spyware, ransomware, rootkit इनके बारे में सुना? That attacker install it in our device to monitor us. So the name suggests itself. Have you heard of spyware, adware, ransomware? Spyware is basically when someone is capturing the details, है ना. एक होता है ना spy छोड़ देना पीछे. Adware, through the advertisement, how your data is being captured, and ransomware, your computer gets logged and asking for some kind of ransom. If you'll pay this much amount, then we'll unlock your system or something like that. So this is a kind of attack which is happening. So ransom मांगना, कोई फिरौती kind of thing, where system hijacking is happening, and in order to get the system back into the operationable stage, we have to pay them some ransom. And this attack, doesn't guarantee कि आगे पहले फिर बाद में attack नहीं होगा, क्योंकि once we have paid the ransom, they will get encouraged enough कि yes, they have paid the ransom, तो अगली बार भी ये कर देंगे. Then they will be making, taking out misuse out of it. Sorry. So is it clear to you all the malware classification? Clear, guys? Okay. Now let's move to the next slide where we'll be having a look at the computer viruses. Computer virus क्या है? This is a type of malware which is designed to replicate, spread from computer to computer. Virus की एक ये property होती है, it replicate itself and spread from one system to another. So usually by infecting the executable application or the program code, so it then moves to the next system, infect that system, and so on. So there are several types of viruses, and they are generally classified into different types of file or the media they infect. अलग अलग टाइप के वायरस है, अलग अलग टाइप की क्लासिफिकेशन है. So that basically rely on some sort of host file जिस पे वो टारगेट बनाते हैं, या फिर जो भी उस मीडिया फाइल रहती है. One we have known resident or the file infector. As the name suggests, इस वायरस में क्या होता है कि होस्ट एग्जीक्यूटेबल फाइल कंटेन करता है वायरस, एंड इट रन्स व्हेन विद द होस्ट प्रोसेस. जो मेन प्रोसेस जब रन करेगा उसके साथ ही वायरस एग्जीक्यूट होने लगेगा. So this is something which is happening in the file infector, that the virus is contained within the host executable file and runs with the host process. जब main file host process run करेगा, target process जो है target file है, तो वैसी virus run कर जाएगा. The virus will try to infect other process images on persistent storage, perform some other payload action, and if then passes the control back to the host program. So next we have memory resident, जिसमें वो memory को basically वो infect करते हैं. When the host file is executed, the virus create a new process for itself in the memory. एक अपना अलग process create कर लेगा computer की memory में virus. Malicious process remain in the memory even if the host process is terminated. हमने होस्ट प्रोसेस जो होस्ट फाइल थी उसको चाहे बंद कर दिया, लेकिन जो मलिशियस फाइल है, मलिशियस प्रोसेस है वायरस का, वो मेमोरी में फिर भी चलता रहेगा एंड इट विल कीप ऑन डूइंग इट्स वर्क. Then we have boot, जो boot sector पे होता है. So the virus code which is written on the disk boot sector on the or the partition table of a fixed disk या फिर USB media पे लगता है, उसको basically inject करना, and they execute as a memory resident process. ये memory resident process के through execute करेंगे कि ये memory में all the time running रहेंगे. When the operating system start or the media is attached to the computer, so they keep on executing themselves their file. Then we have script or macro viruses. The malware which uses the programming features available in the local scripting engines for the operating system or the browser like PowerShell, Windows Management Instrumentation, then JavaScript or something like that. So ऐसे scripts पे macro viruses they comes into the picture. Then we have this, in addition to these classification which we have studied, non-resident, file infector, memory resident, boot, or the script, we have multi-party. Then this is all about, it is used for the viruses that use multiple vectors. काफी अलग-अलग vectors use करते हैं, polymorphing for the viruses that can dynamically change or obfuscate their code to evade the detection. उनकी डिटेक्शन हो नहीं पाती है, लेकिन बस अपना काम करते रहते हैं viruses. So what these types of viruses have in common is that they must infect a host file or media. ये तो इनका common रहता है, जिस फाइल में वायरस आ गया उसको तो इसने इन्फेक्ट करके ही जाना है. होस्ट फाइल या मीडिया को ही इन्फेक्ट करेगा. Infected file can be distributed through any normal means. या तो डिस्क के थ्रू कर दी, या नेटवर्क के थ्रू, या फिर अटैचमेंट के थ्रू कर दी मेल में, या फिर सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट के थ्रू कर दिया, या फिर कुछ भी हमने वेबसाइट से डाउनलोड किया है. So this is how they are doing its work. So this is the vector for delivery for the same. You all can see a screenshot attached over here. So there is an unsafe attachment which is detected by Outlook's mail finder. The double file extension is an unsophisticated attempt which is there to fool any user not already altered by the use of both English and other language in the message text. That is basically, see, there's an attachment with double file extension. PDF भी लगाया, वो dash के साथ लगाया, .jar file it is. So this is an unsophisticated attempt which will fool any user which is not already all alerted by the use of any particular language. Alert नहीं हो पाया जो इससे. Can you see in the picture itself? और आउटलुक ने उसको डिटेक्ट कर लिया है कि ये अनसेफ अटैचमेंट है ना. दिस इज वन ऑफ द वेज कैसे आप वायरस इन्फेक्टेड फाइल्स जो है ट्रांसफर करते हो थ्रू मेल्स. Then we have computer worms and fileless malware. Worm जो होते हैं ना, computer worm, that is memory resident malware. So that can run without user intervention and they can replicate over network resources. ये network को ज़्यादा friendly होते हैं. ये network resources के through खुद को replicate करते रहते हैं, फैलते रहते हैं, बढ़ते रहते हैं आगे. A virus is executed only when the user performs an action. कुछ भी यूजर अगर डाउनलोड कर रहा है, कोई ऐसी इन्फेक्टेड फाइल रन कर रहा है, एक्सिक्यूटेबल कोई प्रोसेस है, or if he or she is attaching an infected USB stick or opening an infected Word document with macros enabled. Guys, please excuse me for a minute. Okay, guys, so we were discussing about worms, right? So the thing is, by contrast, we can say that worm can execute by exploiting. A minute. So basically what is happening, a worm can execute by exploiting some vulnerability in a process when the user browses a website, runs a vulnerable server application, or if it is connected to some infected file share, right? So for example, we have the code red worm, which was able to infect early versions of Microsoft's IS web server software via a buffer overflow vulnerability. So if then scan randomly generated IP addresses IP ranges to try to infect some other vulnerable IS server. So this was something happening with the red flag, red code. So early computer worms, what is happening? They propagate in the memory over the network links and they consume the bandwidth and crash the processes. So this is something which is happening. And then we have fileless malware. Just a minute. So this is about the example which I have shared. So you all may go through this. Fileless में क्या होता है? Exploiting the remote execution memory residence to deliver the payloads. They, doesn't write its code to the disk. The malware use memory resident technique to run its own process within the host process, or we can say the dynamic link library, or within some scripting host, something like that. So this what mean uh, that there is no disk activity, however. So they may run in the initial script or the Trojan, persistence via registry. So they may use the shell code to create the backdoors, download additional tools, or something like that. So they are living off the land exploitation of built-in scripting tools. So fileless malware living off the land techniques, they rather than than compiled executable to evade some detection. So what is exactly happening? So this means that the malware code, they uses the legitimate system scripting tools or something like that to execute the payload action. Then we have advanced persistent threat APT or the advanced volatile threat AVT. So both can be used to describe the general class of modern fileless or the live offline land malware. So the classification can be observed with this LOC attack. So a link for the same low observational characteristics. So the exact classification is less important than the realization कि जो adversaries हैं, they may use variety of coding tricks to affect the inclusions, the tactics, techniques, procedures, the TP which we discussed to evade the detection, which are continually evolving. So about fileless malware, you all may have a look at this particular article. How does it happen? How to protect specific types of fileless threats, and so on. So this is all about computer worms and fileless malware. Now we have spyware, adware, keyloggers. The first viruses, worms, they focused on the destructive potential of being able to replicate. उनका वायरस फॉर्म्स का मेन यही रहा है कि वो डिस्ट्रक्टिव वे में कैसे खुद को बढ़ा बढ़ा के रेप्लिकेट कर करके आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे. As the profitable use of this software become apparent, however, they started to be coded with payloads. क्या इसमें फ्रॉड आने लग गया, फिर डेटा चोरी होने लग गया, बहुत सी ऐसी चीजें होने लग गई जो इसमें और भी इन्होंने डिजाइन कर दी वायरस में. सो वेरियस टाइप्स ऑफ अनवांटेड कोड मॉलवेयर आ गए हैं. Perform some levels of monitoring. What kind of monitoring are being performed by such kind of malware? Monitoring in the sense our details are being captured. So cracking cookies. Now cookies are the plain text files. They are not malware. But if browser settings allow third-party cookies, they can be used to record pages visited, the search queries, browser metadata, IP address, like everything which is being tracked on the page. So cracking cookies are created by adverts and the analytics widgets embedded into many websites. So this is how the cracking cookies can be harmful. Then we have adware. So this is the class of PUP or some grayware जिसमें धुंधला सा ही रखते हैं किसी को, that performs some browser reconfiguration, allowing, जैसे हमने allow कर दिया tracking cookies, फिर then changing the default search providers, opening some kind of sponsors pages like startup जैसे हमने खोला, adding some bookmarks and so on. Adware may be installed as a program or on the browser extension or maybe in the plugin. So adware are actually working over there with changes to the browser settings. We're just sharing our details with others. Spyware, the malware that can perform adware like tracking की हो रही है, इसमें भी monitoring की हो रही है. Monitor क्या कर रहा है? Local application activity को screenshots लिए जा रहे हैं because this is the spy who is actually capturing our activities, activating the recording devices, microphone, webcam. Another spyware technique is to perform DNS redirection to farming sites. कैसे आगे इसको redirect किया जा रहा है. So spyware is a malware which log all the local activities, use of recording devices, screenshots, redirection is happening. Then we have keylogger. Now keylogger is a spyware only, है ना? That actively attempts to steal the confidential information. कैसे? By recording the keystrokes. Attacker will usually hope to discover passwords or credit card data. So this is how the keylogger is actually working. So this is something the screenshot which is attached over here. So actual keylogger is a window based software जो actual keylogger है, जो कि बैकग्राउंड में रन करता है टू मॉनिटर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ कंप्यूटर एक्टिविटीज. क्या हम ओपन कर रहे हैं, क्या हम क्लोज कर रहे हैं, कौन से प्रोग्राम्स हैं, क्या हम ब्राउज कर रहे हैं, ब्राउजिंग वेबसाइट्स क्या है, रिकॉर्डिंग की स्ट्रोक्स किस तरह से हम टाइप करते हैं, कैप्चरिंग द स्क्रीनशॉट्स. So this is the actual keylogger. And the official site for the same is shared in the chat box. Actual keylogger. Now these are not implemented as software keyloggers. ये एक malicious script है that can transmit key presses to the third party website. और ये एक हार्डवेयर डिवाइसेस है. दे आर आल्सो हार्डवेयर डिवाइसेस टू कैप्चर की प्रेसेस. कैसे हम की प्रेसेस करते हैं, हर एक की अपना अपना पैटर्न होता है. टू मॉडिफाई टू यूएसबी adapter which is inserted between the keyboard and the port. Now such devices that can store data locally or come up with some Wi-Fi connectivity to send data to a covert access point. So other attacks may include like wireless sniffers to record key press data. So overlay ATM pin tags and so on. So this is a part of keylogger. Then we are here at the backdoors and remote access trojans. So any type of access method to host the circumvents the usual authentication method, gives the remote user administrative control, उसे हम backdoor कह देंगे. तो रिमोट एक्सेस ट्रोजन जो होता है, रैट रिमोट एक्सेस ट्रोजन है. सो दैट इज बेसिकली अ बैकडोर मॉलवेयर जो पीछे के दरवाजे से एंटर होता है. बैकडोर मॉलवेयर. सो क्या करता है, दैट मिमिक्स द फंक्शनैलिटी ऑफ लेजिटिमेट रिमोट एक्सेस रिमोट कंट्रोल प्रोग्राम. उसको बिल्कुल कॉपी कर रहा है, मिमिक कर रहा है कैसे वो फंक्शनिंग है रिमोट कंट्रोल प्रोग्राम्स की. बट ये ऐसे डिजाइन किया गया होता है कि वो स्पेसिफिकली मॉलिशियसली ऑपरेट करेगा. So once RAD is installed, it allows the threat actor to access the host. एक बार RAD इंस्टॉल हो गया तो थ्रेट एक्टर के पास कमांड आ जाएगी कि वो होस्ट को एक्सेस कर सके, फाइल्स अपलोड कर सके, कोई भी सॉफ्टवेयर इंस्टॉल कर सके और लिव ऑफ द लैंड टेक्निक को यूज कर सके टू इफेक्ट द फर्दर कॉम्प्रोमाइजेस. ही इज नॉट on the same system, is living remotely, and he ultimately have the access to it. So a compromised host can be installed with one or more bots. There could be a possibility जो host है that is under malicious control, और वो उसे हम zombie भी कह सकते हैं. तो bot क्या होता है, एक automated script है या ऐसा कोई tool है जो कुछ malicious activity perform करता रहता है. robot से निकला है bot. अगर हम group of bots use करते हैं that are all under the control of the same malware, so that can be manipulated as botnet. अगर multiple bots connect हो गए हैं तो उन्होंने बना लिया botnet. उनका एक अपना नेटवर्क हो गया by the header program. So botnet किसके लिए यूज हो सकता है, काफी malicious purposes के लिए यूज हो सकता है. That could be triggering distributed denial of service attack, launching some spam campaigns, performing some crypto mining, or any such malicious activity can be performed. When a backdoor is used as a standalone intrusion mechanism or to manage some bots which are there, the threat actor must establish a connection with from the compromised host to command and control, which is C2, or we can say C and C, command and control host or the network. So this particular network connection is usually considered the best way to identify the presence of rat, backdoor or bot. इनकी presence identify हो सकती है through this. So there are many means of implementing CNC network, such as covert channel, to evade the detection, filtering. So historically, इंटरनेट रिले चार्ट IRC प्रोटोकॉल एक ऐसा है जो कि बहुत पॉपुलर था. मॉडर्न मेथड्स जो है दे आर मोस्ट लाइकली टू यूज कमांड सीक्वेंसेस which are embedded in HTTPS, or we can say the DNS traffic. So backdoors from any misconfiguration, unauthorized software. So they can be created in other ways than infection or infection by the malware. So programmers may create backdoors in a software application. Kyun? For testing development, they are subsequently not removed when the application is deployed. So backdoor मिसकॉन्फ़िगरेशन ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर या हार्डवेयर के लिए भी क्रिएट किया जा सकता है, जो कि फर्दर अनऑथराइज्ड यूजर्स को एक्सेस अलाउ कर देगा. So example may include like leaving a router configured with default administrative password, वैसे ही छोड़ दिया, change ही नहीं किया, admin ID password default जो होता है, having remote desktop connection configured with some unsecured password, or leaving a modem open to receive dial-up connection. So this may happen to the, this kind of thing, backdoor from any misconfiguration or unauthorized software, unauthorized access. So this is all about backdoors and remote access trojans, guys. So remaining, I guess we have uh, 4 topics for this particular chapter, and then we'll be done with this particular chapter. So do you have any doubt in today's session? Anyone? Any doubt, any query, please feel free to ask me. Guys, I'm open to the queries. If you have any doubt in your mind, then please feel free to ask me. Whatever the things, the topics which we have covered today in the session. No doubt, no query. Okay. So we'll be completing this chapter 4 and we'll be starting with chapter 5 tomorrow. So that you can prepare well for the quiz one, which is scheduled on Friday. So whatever the topics we'll be covering till tomorrow, so from those topics only you will get the questions, and from the basic security questions probably could be there a part of the quiz. So make sure you revise well all the concepts, and if there are some terms which are given with just a topic, then you have to dig deep into the meaning as well, so that you can answer the questions more precisely. Technically, the time which is, Divish, were you there in yesterday's session? And when you were having first year, like your first year classes, your assignments were, regularly being conducted in the class. तो वो क्या आपकी सारी MCAT SHL पोर्टल पे होती थी, जो क्लास असाइनमेंट्स होती थी? No, Milan, no need to open cam, I guess. No, I didn't think so. But make sure you attempt the questions with honesty. No cheating allowed, right? Technically, it was said to us that you guys will be given 45 minutes in order to complete quiz one. But I'll be setting deadline from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., whatever the class timings are. है ना? So, but till 12, you guys will be allowed to attempt the test. So just in case of any network issue or something like that, I've given you 1 hour of good enough extra time. उसके बाद कोई extension नहीं है. Once the time is up, no no query will be entertained कि मेरा ये problem था. पहले ही अपने सारे problems fix करके रखना. मैं पहले ही बता रही हूँ, कोई ऐसी रिक्वेस्ट है या कोई ऐसा एक्सक्यूज है वो एंटरटेन नहीं होगा इन फ्यूचर। ठीक है, सब मुझे नहीं पता बाकी ग्रुप्स का, लेकिन इट वाज टोल्ड टू अस कि 45 मिनट्स का टाइम देना है, बट स्टिल आई विल बी सेटिंग डेडलाइन फॉर 2 आवर्स। विल बी ओपनिंग द क्विज एट 11 AM, क्लोजिंग इट बाय 1 PM। तो उसके बाद मत मुझसे कोई उम्मीद रखना। Once you have crossed the deadline, you will not be allowed to submit the quiz. And I'll be fetching out the details from the responses. So as it is, मैं तो marks आगे submit कर दूंगी quiz 1 के. ठीक है? Okay, guys. If you have no queries, no doubts, now you all will leave the session. Prepare well for your quiz 1 so that you all can get good internals. See you in the next class. Thank you, guys.